Good morning, Central Kentucky. This is Sandra Leslie White coming to you live from the studios here at WJMM and talking about this morning, third day. So, those of you who are listening in on 99.1 FM or WJMM.com, you may have heard the intro by Third Day. Great band. I love Mac Powell, Third Day. They were just an amazing band. I think still together. I think Mac's kind of ventured out on his own. But I love the song Born Again. That's the one that was played in the intro, and I will definitely post that one on my Facebook page this morning, Sandra Leslie White Ministries, if you would like to listen to the whole song. I love it because it reminds me, strangely enough, of Christmas season. It's my third day, and that certainly is the topic and the title of my message today. But I remember driving down Paris Pike one evening, and I was on my way to Messiah, which was performed every year. And I'm heartbroken, Singletary Center and Lexington Singers. I'm heartbroken that it is not being performed this year for some reason. Anyway, I was going to meet Cindy Ruhlman, shouting out to you this morning, Cindy, because every year we would go and listen to Messiah. Well, as I was driving down beautiful Paris Pike, watching the sun set, and this song came on the air, and I was so touched. I simply wept down Paris Pike, just thankful for Jesus, and that I am living that wonderful born again lifestyle. And we've taken such a beating with that phrase as Christians, but wow, when Mac sings about that, it feels like I'm born again, feels like I'm living, feels like I'm really living for the first time in my life. And so we are going to talk about really living as we talk about third day in Hosea 6:1-3 today, as well as in 1 Peter. So let's jump in the New American Standard Version this morning. If you're just tuning in, this is Sandra Leslie White talking about third day from Hosea 6:1-3. We'll move on from these verses in a couple of days and into the rest of chapter 6, but they're so rich, they're so packed, they're so full. So let's go there again this morning in the New American Standard Version, Hosea 6:1-3. Come, let us return to the Lord, for he has torn us, but he will heal us. He has wounded us, but he will bandage us. He will revive us after 2 days. He will raise us up on the third day, that we may live before him. So let us press on to know the Lord. His going forth is as certain as the dawn, and he will come to us like the rain, like the spring rain, watering the earth. All right, that's Hosea 6:1-3. We're going to focus on verse 2. He will revive us after 2 days. He will raise us up on the third day, that we may live before him. All right, talking about the message today, third day. Do you have a third day? Have you had some third days? Have you had some 2 days? Have you all experienced third days throughout our journey with Jesus? So let's talk about this in the context, at least, of Hosea. Of course, this is the response of the people. I've been talking about that. This is the first time that God's people who have been severely disciplined by the Lord because of their dangerous and destructive ways, and that they're about to be overcome by the Assyrians to the north of them because of their intercourse literally with pagan gods from the Canaanites. So he's warned them, he's told them he's going to tear them, he's told them that he is about their severe discipline before their severe destruction overtakes them. Sometimes it gets to that point with Yahweh. So he talks about, however, that they talk about, I should say, that he is going to heal them, he's going to bandage them, and then they talk about, this is so interesting, in verse 2, he will revive us. He will, very emphatic, they know it. He will revive us after 2 days. He will raise us up on the third day, that we may live before him. Well, clearly that's prophetic about the Christ, and we're going to get to that. But before that, let's talk about the context here. According to John Gill, he's my favorite Hosea commentator. He said this: the Jews in their present state are as dead men, both in a civil and spiritual sense. And their conversion and restoration will be as life from the dead. They are like persons buried, and when they are restored, they will be raised out of their graves, both of sin and misery. He references Romans 11:15 and Ezekiel 37:11-14 there. Goes on to say, the time of which is here fixed, after 2 days, and on the third, which Jarkey, another commentator, interprets of the 2 temples that have been destroyed, and of the third temple to be built, which the Jews expect, but in vain, and when they hope for good times. Kimchi, another scholar, explains it of their 3 captivities, in Egypt, Babylon, and the present one. And so Ben Melech, from which they hope to be raised and live comfortably, which sense is better than the former, and with it may be compared to the notion that the first day was between Israel's coming out of Egypt and the Babylonian captivity, the second day between that and the times of Antiochus, which was the third night, then the third day followed, which is the times of the Messiah. All right, again, if you're just tuning in, we're talking about the third day. I think on this, scholars tend to agree and look at this as millennials, the first millennial, the second millennial, the third millennial, which is where we are today, that Jesus, the Messiah, has been about reviving his people and raising us up on the third day in the third millennium, with him in the heavenly places, back with him to judge the earth. However, you see the book of Revelation as sort of influences your perceptions here as well. But I think for us today, this idea of the waiting on the Messiah, he will revive them. In other words, he's going to revive them after he has healed them, bandaged their wounds. He's actually going to revive them after 2 days. After 2 days, whatever those 2 days mean. And we can look now to 1 Peter 3:19 for that. This is interesting. The scriptures speak of this numerous occasions, but 1 Peter 3:19 says, I'll start actually, let's start with 18. For Christ also died for sins once and for all, the just for the unjust, in order that he might bring us to God, having been put to death in the flesh, but made alive in the spirit, in which also he went and made proclamation to the spirits now in prison, who were once disobedient, when the patience of God kept waiting in the days of Noah during the construction of the ark, in which a few, that is 8 persons, were brought safely through the water. And corresponding to that, baptism now saves you, not the removal of dirt from the flesh, but an appeal to God for a good conscience through the resurrection of Jesus Christ, who is at the right hand of God, having gone to heaven, after angels and authorities and powers had been subjected to him. So that's 1 Peter 3, starting with 18, going on to 22. But he talks about in 19, he says, in which he went and made proclamation to the spirits now in prison. So I think that's one of the scriptural foundations for our Apostles' Creed, when we say that he descended into hell on the third day. He rose again. and ascended into heaven. So that's some of the scriptural basis for our creed there, and there are others. So the idea here is that there is a dead man. There's a dead man in all of us. There's just a dead man, and there's a dead culture, or one that's near dead. Okay, in the time of Hosea, it's near dead because he's got to heal them, bandage them, revive them for 2 days, and then on the third day he'll raise them up. So I think it begs the question of, do we understand really? I mean, as we celebrate Christmas, and I'm telling you what, I promise every year, I'm not going to get into the middle of all this chaos, Christmas chaos, I call it. And every year I do. But, I really am in it now. But I am especially aware of being born again. We opened with Third Day's wonderful song, Born Again. And I'll post that for you on my Facebook page. But I love this, that he says in verse 2, he will revive us, he will revive the Hebrew people, he will revive you and me after 2 days. He will raise us up on the third day, that we may live before him. Oh, that we may live. And life, just to wake up, is such a gift. And I had a restless night, difficult time sleeping, and lots of worries and concerns and all, and, no fear, but concerns on, my plate. But I woke up just with joy in my heart, and thinking about this song, thinking about this message, thinking about the opportunity we have, the reality of living and moving, breathing, being in Christ, that we can live and move and have his being every day, regardless of your circumstances, every day. Have joy every day. Have hope every day. Have a confidence every day, because we have Christ in us, the hope of glory. I don't know. I don't mean to be trite about this. I mean, it feels like I'm living today for the very first time. It feels like I'm born again. Feels like I'm living for the very first time. Is that how you feel today? What about your 2 days of revival? Do you find your place in the kingdom right now as one that is weary or burdensome, or maybe you're in that 2-day period in your life, and those 2 days can be 1,000 years. They can be a few weeks. They can be a year or 2 or 3. I don't know what they are, and they're not meant to give us specific dates. But it's a time of just quiet, I think, revival, and then he will raise you up. So think about that as we go along in Hosea. Think about that as you go along in your day-to-day life. That is, maybe you're in the reviving period. You've been healed, you've been bandaged, maybe you've gone through some really tough stuff, but you're being revived. Be aware of it. Be aware of it. If you have glimpses of life and joy and hope, you're in the revival period. But let's move on to the third day and be raised up again with great expectation. God bless you today. We'll see you soon.